I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is The Sword Woman.
By the band Smoulder.
By the band Smoulder. I've never heard of this band before.
Metlcat.
For timely topical Metlcat. Have we done it? We've done a couple.
Oh, yeah.
They at the 75?
Yeah.
They must be. For timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up in Middle America with Vin and Sori. We've been having a couple runs with the big homie DL Beluga, the latest to join the Middle America team. DL Beluga and I are going to be doing a moderated debate between Lady Leah and Matthew Maida. So that should be very, very, very interesting. It's going to be like a Chris Wallace style thing, so I'll be asking Maida some challenging questions because he's a liberal. And then, no, I'll be asking Leah the questions because she's a massive Trump fan. And then DL Beluga is going to be, whatever. Okay, that being the case, this is The Sword Woman from the band Smoulder. If you, dear listener, would like your song reviewed, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line, and you do that 3 times like Metlcat has done. It goes down to the $75 tier, or you can jump on, so that's vinandsorimerch@gmail.com and Patreon, or you can do it on the PayPal, or you can do Patreon. That'll clear it a month, and then you do your song, etc., etc. That being said, The Sword Woman Smoulder.
All right, and we're off. force her into marriage.
No. No. This reminded me of a...
This was a fan-made video, by the way.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, this is...
See? Fan tribute video.
Scroll down, I want to see. So where did this... Times of Obscene by Smoulder... What was the video, though? Anyway, doesn't matter. This pleases Crom. You know, this pleases me. Shout out to Alicia Weber. This reminds me, we're watching a like biography thing of David or whatever, King David.
Yeah.
It's like a movie about David.
Yeah.
And it was it was a part where he went to Goliath, and of course, every time that I saw the story in the children's Bible, he just hit him with the sling, and then he gets hit in the head, and he's dead.
Yeah.
I remember reading it in 1 Samuel, where the rock actually just stunned Goliath. Mm-hmm. David took Goliath's sword and beheaded him, ISIS style. And so, anyway, so we're watching this movie, we're all in the room, and my older brother, who's obviously the actor in the family, I mean, the guy is like a legit thespian, he's got stuff in, what do they call, indie films and all that, and, whatever. So he's reenacting this whole thing, and he goes, "To Goliath!" And then he does the chopping motion, and my mom was like, "Stop, Dad, stop!" And my brother was like, she's like, "You're glorifying the violence." And then my stepdad was like, "Well, lovely. I'm just reenacting the film, which was a retelling of the Bible story." You know what I mean? He was like, "Oh, lovely." I mean,
I feel like that's something that would happen with us.
she's like, "You're glorifying the violence." Because, I mean, he was overacting, of course, we're boys, right? So I was like, this guy David is gangster as fuck, bro. Look at this shit. And he's like, "Oh, Goliath," And then he took the head and did this thing and he showed it around, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure, didn't he carry the head with him into the thing, or I don't know if that's Hollywood or something. Maybe I gotta come by, but he's carrying the head in the knapsack. But that was that whole conversation was one of the first times I'm like, yo, there's some pretty nasty stuff in the Bible.
Oh my gosh.
You had to get all those Philistine foreskins, you had to, 100 Philistine foreskins.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty, and so was the one where the guy comes into her tent and he asks for water and she gives him milk, and then
JL, yeah.
She puts the tent peg through his temple.
Yeah. She used her womanly charm.
And then she wrapped him in a carpet.
And homeboy fell asleep, and she took care of business. And then they made a song about it. She put the peg through his head.
Yeah, I know.
They sang about it. I'm like,
but that one was always scary to me because I always envisioned myself in that moment right before she puts the thing through, and if that was,
I'm like, these people are gangster as hell, bro.
Oh, I know.
So I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's this Xena type warrior princess type woman, completely mythical, situation where this woman with a sword goes out and takes out all these giant mountains of men, just getting
with her barely no outfit,
with her blonde self, barely no
her
outfit,
hair.
in all that winter and shit. You see how cold it was? She's out there half naked.
Okay,
speaking of half naked, we gotta watch that documentary about that guy.
Which guy?
The yoga guy.
Oh, I know.
Because I think you'll enjoy it. But anyway, I was thoroughly entranced by the video, and
I noticed I've been trying to tell you when I'm about to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to do.
Yeah.
I hate being the bearer of bad news.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's better than
getting sleepy now.
It's better than having a conversation, being like, "Holy moly, isn't this an interesting lyric?" and then nothing, because she's out cold.
It's past 2 a.m. though. Let's be real. Okay, so anyway, back to the song.
Yeah.
Red-haired spawn of the devil, eyes burn fierce, they smolder. Thou shalt not become his slave. Slit his throat, in his blood I will bathe. I really like that.
So what was
female power
the
there?
story was basically like she's like sold into marriage with this dude or whatever.
But she's not having it.
But
She calls him a pig at the end. Did you see that?
It's really interesting because she's a woman. She's saying, I sell my sword to the highest bidder, which is kind of like a little bit of a reversal, right? Because the oldest profession, you're selling something to the highest bidder, but it's not generally not looked upon as a sword. But so she's like a mercenary going out there doing well, there were female Vikings that would go out there and do jihad.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of women going out like having combat MOSs. I'm not a fan of that at all. But it did happen. To ride with my brethren with shining steel by my side, crush the traitors and revel in their cries.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think this is this must have been like a Viking chick, is that, to my knowledge, the girls are out there doing on some gangster shit. Now that's not to say just because I don't believe that women should, as a rule, be in a combat MOS, it doesn't mean that there aren't women that can get busy. There are. There's always exceptions to every rule. But I just like, here's the thing about you, like you're the strongest. I'm talking about just physical, pound for pound, physically pound for pound. You're the strongest female I've ever known, like in the real world. And so, like, could you could you get busy on the battlefield? I absolutely believe you could, but you're the last person I'd want on the battlefield. That would be a disaster. It'd be an absolute disaster. So no, women should not be.
Why, man? Why?
You know why already. I don't even know why you're saying. I don't even know why you're asking me that question. You know why.
My thing is that I think that if it's all men that are on the team, then they have to at some point. I guess it depends on what type of a team it is. But if it's the type of team that says like we are accomplishing the mission, it's the mission first, and it's not like, some of them are like, no soldier left behind, so it doesn't matter what happens, they're going back, and they'll endanger a whole team for one person.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not like that, and it's like...
That's America.
Yes, I know that it's America, but not every team in America has that mindset. Some of them, it's about the mission, right?
Which team in America doesn't have that mindset?
I just assume that there's teams that it's about the mission first.
No, it's always mission first, but what happens is that the mission changes when somebody gets in trouble. So, like, for example, the Black Hawk Down situation, the mission was to get Muhammad Farah and his people. Mm-hmm. But then, as soon as 6-1 went down, the mission changed to, we need to rescue Mike Durant and those guys, Cliff Walcott.
Okay, well then I guess my point is invalid.
The mission profile changes, but what was your point?
My point was, if it's mission first and there's a woman on the team, like, I feel like that the men are going to have a harder time to say, no, it's mission first, leave her, if she gets trapped behind there, because the stuff that's going to happen to men in those trap situations is not the same as what's going to happen to a woman in a trap situation. So,
well, the psychological damage that happens to the psyche of a nation with a female POW is much different than a male POW, especially a beautiful female POW. Psychologically, that's much worse than male POWs. Mm-hmm. So it's and it doesn't matter what you say, especially to Americans. There have been some like English folks who I'm like, that guy would leave his own mother behind. Like, there have been a couple people I'm like, that dude would leave his own mother. Because of the whole stiff upper lip, like, mm-hmm. Americans are a lot more visceral, and we've woven it into our, the entire zeitgeist, especially in the military community mm-hmm. or whatever. Nobody gets left behind, blah, 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 mm-hmm. blah. Whereas, and there's a real primer on, being emotional and all this.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, English people are like, So I don't know. But Shorty out here, she's going to war. Like, she's So what you're saying is like, if there was a military outfit where dudes, like, you could shut off the emotional aspect of a person's being, so you're saying you would then support a woman in a combat MOS, or do you believe that women should be in combat?
People are not going to like what I have to say about this, and I'm not sure if I'm being influenced by thought processes of the past, but I feel like, generally speaking, like, obviously there's some women that are stronger than some men, you know,
right.
But I feel like if you're in a situation where you have to get in and out of that situation with optimal strength, optimal speed, then why would we put a woman in that situation?
It's just ridiculous.
When they join up and the different things that they have to do, the miles of this, that the stuff for the women is lower than the stuff for men. That means that we have an understanding that women cannot run as fast and as far as men can. So I just don't understand why we would put something so important. Like, wouldn't we always want to send our best warriors? And I don't think that women, like, I think that women are powerful beings, and I think that women are amazing, and I think that we can accomplish so much, but I think that there's just certain things that, like, you know, I think that, like, I can be kind of like business-like about certain things if I'm not, like, emotionally attached to it. As long as I'm not emotionally attached to it, then I can just look at the situation and just say, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I'm not going to send if there's this one guy that he runs super fast and he's super strong and he's very accurate with his weapon, and I have a guy that runs, he's a little slower and he's, you know what I mean, he's a little bit less than the other one, and I have an important mission, guess what? I'm sending the one that's the best made for the job.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, if it was about small spaces or something, you know what I mean? Like, or if it's not about, like, you know, if the job is about intellect and the woman is clearly smarter than the man, then fine. But if it's about...
There's a lot of things that a woman can do to help the war effort. I mean, we saw that when World War II. You even see it in Islamic history. During the Battle of Uhud, they were providing aid, like literally providing first aid. They're providing first aid and all that jazz. So I mean, it was there. But as far and there were times when women took up swords and did jihad.
Oh yeah.
Where Muhammad allowed it.
Yeah.
So, but the difference there though is if you lost a war or a battle, it was understood that the women were going to be taken. Well, period.
There are certain situations where it makes sense for the woman to get involved.
Right, like there's no Geneva Convention. There's no, if you lose, then your girls are gonna be, you know, whatever. So these women, like, when they're fighting, like the concept is different. And you know, people bring up the IDF. Oh, you know, like women serve in the the Israeli Defense Force. But again, like you're sharing a border with a hostile person, and you're in a constant state of war. You can get blown up in a bus, you know, whatever. So it's just to get an apples to orange comparison. The most compelling thing I've ever heard is like, look, you go to fight for your wives and your children. So why would you have your wives out there? When you're fighting for your wives.
Well, that's because not all of these people are wives.
Right, but the concept is that you're fighting to protect, you know, women and children. But you know, now in this day and age, people get like all offended and say, to me, it's a completely different world. Like I don't understand. Like sometimes I talk to Peter about stuff. Like I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't even understand what he's offended about. I love the guy, but like whenever.
What do you think about female cops?
We're talking about like gender roles and stuff like that. I mean, I would not want my daughter to be a police officer in Chicago, but around here, sure, go for it. But I don't want her as an officer in Chicago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
See,
saying?
the thing is, like, if I'm in some situation and there's some guy that's broken into my house and the cop shows up and outsteps a woman, I'm not feeling it. I'm not. I'm not. There's a man in my house. I've got my kids and.
No, she's got a firearm. She can do work.
Yeah. I'm just not feeling it like I'm feeling if a guy steps out of that situation.
Well, yeah,
I will say, however, if I get pulled over on some dark road and a female cop steps out, I feel better about that.
Right. I would feel better for you if it was a female cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of stuff is situational. But this girl right here, I do think like once in a while you're gonna get like some super soldier woman who is like this. You know? Heart beats quick with strange longing, live as I please and die as God wills. Eyes dance with reckless madness, trade judgery for wandering and violence. It's really terrible, I'm ashamed to say, but there is something.
Drudgery for wandering and violence.
It's true. It's true. A lot of people have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I feel like what she's talking about, drudgery, because what would she be doing if she wasn't out there warring and stuff? She'd be a wife and a mom. So, I mean...
yeah.
See, the thing is, I couldn't reverse it now. Like, I'm not trying to go out and get a job outside the house. I'm not trying to leave my kids. But if you'd have caught me before having kids, like, that was kind of like... I had that kind of feeling about kids. There's a Chinese proverb that says, children tie the feet. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You always react like that when I say it. It's completely true. I wanted to jump out of planes before, like, you know, and do exciting things and what. Now I'm like, why would I take that risk? Why would I take that? I'm not doing that. I'm not bungee jumping. I'm not like that wild free side of me is like not there.
A lot of dudes fought and died so that you could have that decision.
Yeah.
Because the life that you live now is relatively placid. I just think that, like, even in, you know, the stress of being in the Bronx and knowing that at any given moment something could happen, and most of the time my governing emotion was fear. So if you're on the bus, and there were so many nuanced rules that was almost impossible. It was like the entire game was stacked against you. So, like, if you look at a guy too long, that means you want a conflict. But if you look at him too short, that means you're soft, in which case you're food, so he can go, him and his boys are going to get at you. So, like, how many seconds are you supposed to look? And how many, you know, and so, like, being always in a state of hypervigilance, knowing where everybody's around you. Remember that time, like, we were at, like, some church meeting or whatever, and, like, one of the pastor dudes came up, like, up from behind me or whatever, and you know, like, he's taller than me, which is not very hard to do. And he's like, whoa, hey, whoa,
He grabbed onto you or something.
Yeah, he grabbed onto me. I was like, you know, and you know, then there's like a whole room looking at you, and it's all this is very, like, we're all laughing at that, but that was like a really weird situation for me. It was a very, like, hard situation because everybody's like looking, and I looked around, I knew, like, everybody, like, didn't understand like, what was happening, like, you know what I mean, like, yeah, like they didn't get it, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, we came up in Maine. There's not like it's just not happening all the time.
Yeah, and that guy was telling that story for a while, like he thought he was like, yo, he just like, he did all of his, you know, stuff that he does his stuff.
I forgot about that story, actually.
Yeah, I was just like, you know, I laughed along with it, but I'm like, you know, I was like, well, you know. But at the same time, like, everybody misses it. Like, we all miss it. Like, if you've been, like, in the middle of all that shit, like, everybody misses it. I don't think anybody, you know, like you did. But I don't really feel like
she said the pounding war drums call me endlessly.
Yeah. I you know, like, I just think, like, anybody that's, like, been in any sort of, like, environment like that, there is part of you that's like, But I don't really look at, like, life now as drudgery at all. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't really have that inclination. It's just that it's.
Somehow you don't.
It's just, you know.
He, like, works 14 hours. This room that you're looking at, the studio, it's not like some ambiance that we created. It's like literally dark in here. And he like sits in here for like 14 hours just working straight in front of his computers. Aside from like, I think actually shooting these videos is like your breaks.
Yeah. Well, it is. You get to listen to music.
Yeah.
It's the only time she'll be in here.
That's not true. I came and I hung out with you today.
5 minutes before we started.
No, it wasn't. I was here for an hour. in that horrible chair.
Of course she counts.
And it was hard for me to get up from.
I'm here. She told you I was here for 14 hours, and then she stood here for an hour, which it wasn't an hour. It's probably like 22 minutes, but I can't complain.
He loses track of time, honestly.
I do lose track of time.
So he doesn't know how long it is.
No, I know, and I know that you were not hanging out with me for an hour, you weirdo.
I was. It doesn't matter. There's going to be no convincing you. I was looking
not
at the clock.
hanging out with me for an hour.
I actually came in twice.
You're a damn liar. That I remember. But yeah, once you get a taste of that stuff, you kind of,
Yeah.
But
she was doing it for very specific reasons, because she wasn't going to marry that pig. That never be swine's bride. Forever you will be denied. I said, yes, that is good. I'm with that.
Yeah. I mean, are you really?
I absolutely am. Why should she have to be married to some pig? She has a heart of war, and she wants to be a warrior, and she goes out and...
You get that, yeah.
My sisters bend over their looms and gnaw their moldy crumbs, but I ride forth in silk and steel to follow the phantom drums. It's just exciting sounding.
Yeah, I remember one of the most hilariously must be frustrating quotes was Douglas Wilson. He said, these women, they won't take the names of their husbands and their last names, so they just leave it with their father. It's like, it's like...
Oh my god, that is so frustrating. I can't even tell you how annoying that is.
It's like Hillary Rodham, like, oh, okay, you're not gonna take Bill's last name. Well, Rodham, you didn't invent the name Rodham, miss. It's your dad's, who's your mom's husband, who she took his last name, so, okay.
That's so annoying. I mean, I'm not a fan of not taking, like, if you're in love with somebody, you want to marry them, like I couldn't wait to have your last name. So.
Yeah.
And your ex was like floating around still with that last name. I was like, are you serious? I couldn't wait for her to change it. Although, now that I'm on that little stepmom channel, like there's actually a lot of exes that will kind of like keep the name. This other woman got married and she hyphenated it.
Well, did she have kids?
So it would be, well, that's what I said. I'm like, well, maybe she did it for the kids.
Because my mom had no attachment to my dad.
Yeah.
And she kept the last name.
Yeah.
But that was because of us.
Yeah.
Because she wanted...
That's the only way to justify it. Other than that, it's extremely strange.
She was completely taken by my stepfather.
Yes.
She had like
yeah,
not
I get
even
that.
an ounce.
Totally get that. But if you're coming from my perspective, it's like, change your name, woman.
Yeah.
It was weird because we both landed at the same place one time, and then they were asking for our names, and we were both that, and then you were that, and so it just looked really like a
I wasn't
weird,
there.
Yeah.
Was it the picture thing?
No, it was one time when she had come up, and we were all going out to eat. Yeah. And then they had asked for our names, and then when I came in, they asked for my name, and it was like all these people with the same last name, and then you came in. It was super uncomfortable. It was like Orion was just a little bitty thing. We all went out to eat.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was very awkward. It was in Portland.
I wasn't there, so.
You were there.
Well, I wasn't there when the name thing was happening.
Oh no, it was so awkward.
Yeah, this is like all the...
And then when we had to get the internet switched over.
That stuff, I don't really care. You care about that stuff. I don't care about that stuff.
It's very weird.
That stuff doesn't mean anything to me. But, this is like... Everybody pours all this metaphorical import into shit that isn't that important. It's like,
that's how you feel about it.
So then Hillary, I was watching this documentary about Hillary. She had this big jihad about how she wasn't gonna, and you cost your husband the governor job or whatever. People would vote for Bill because her name was Hillary Rodham, and she was taking this feminist stance. I'm like, it's your dad's name. You're still doing it. You're still under the auspices of a man. Like,
I cannot stand when I don't see something like that, and then all of a sudden you point it out. I'm like, shut
and then Douglas Wilson was saying like, all these women are like, I'm not gonna sit home and be a slave to my husband. So they go out into the corporate world and they're a slave to a male CEO. It's the same shit. You're still working for a man. It's just a man that doesn't love you. And
you're laughing?
It's a man that doesn't love you. That's all. And you're still pretty much. Anyway, I've seen a lot of things. But that's what happens when like you don't have a strong sense of self, and you identify with a concept instead of who you are as a person. You miss very obvious things. I think that's what happens. People get caught up in these movements. So it's like she's like, oh, you know, I'm not gonna live for this pig. But she's like, I'm selling my sword to the highest bidder. Well, who has the money in her culture? It's probably most likely a dude, right? So, okay.
Well, yeah, but she's doing what she wants to do.
No, she's not. She's selling her sword to the highest bidder.
Yeah, but she wants to go to war.
Yeah. There's a lot of women that want to have children.
Yeah.
So, like,
what does that have to do?
Look how she characterizes it. My sisters bend above their looms and gnaw their moldy crumbs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's not saying, hey, if you want to go do that, cool. I'm gonna go over here.
But
She's
it's like
glamorizing the fact that she's a hired gun.
It's like that
for
now.
Men. She's still working for men.
It's like that now. Like, there are other women that have something to say about women who want to be like what I'm doing. Like, you're you stay at home, you take care of kids, you homeschool them. Like, it's not looked at like, it's like, wow. Like, some people will be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that you do those things. But at the same time, there's lots of people that they are not.
I don't think you fit into any of those, though, because you also work. Like, this is a full-time job.
Well, yeah, but it does. But the fact that you would put yourself in that situation, and people don't want bunches of kids, and we're having bunches of kids, it's not looked at as like, our culture is different than other cultures, you know? There are other cultures where having lots of kids is celebrated. This is not that culture.
Yeah.
We'd rather tear our children limb from limb. Anyway.
No, but I do think there's this, like, bullshit attitude with this attitude, like, oh, if you're not working in the corporate world, then you're less of a woman. But I still say, you're still working for a man. Like, it doesn't matter. You're still working for a man, and you're still sacrificing for a man.
Yeah.
And the fruits of most of your labor are still going to a man. It's just that your ROI is a check every 2 weeks, and the ROI for a woman is children and knowing that you raise the next generation. Like, do it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think people really realize how valuable that is.
Do what you will with that. Well, obviously Americans don't. Like, that's
what I'm saying. It's our culture.
There was like 2 years. It was like a year ago. There's a couple articles that were talking about how Americans are not reproducing at a rate to reproduce the country. You know, because everybody's at 1.5 kids and people playing God, being dumb. It's like, that's one of the reasons I know we're going to win the abortion war. It's unfortunately, it's people like us are having 5, 6, 7 kids, and the other people are killing their kids. So their worldview is inherently cannibalistic. It's going to die.
Yeah.
And then, our kids are going to vote. You're going to have 6, 7 pro-life kids voting in the next, whatever.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. So I thought, because we have so many kids, I thought, like, this baby coming out here, this is number 6 that's going to be in this home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I thought that I asked the kids how many kids they were going to have when they grow up, and I legit thought that they were going to say, like, 1 or 2, because sometimes it's so chaotic, you know what I mean? There's so much action going on, There's so much noise, and, like, everybody has their own chores, and your chore space gets wrecked because other people don't pick up after themselves, and you're picking up after other people. It's just, I thought for sure that they were going to say that. All of them said, like, big. It was all over 3 kids.
Yeah.
Well, some of them, one of them even said 10.
Well, I mean, they know.
I said 10.
We've got a pretty good life. It's a pretty fun life. So,
I always wish my mom had more. There was 3 of us.
Yeah.
Which is still considered.
So, like, this
sizable.
This denigration of, like, oh, you're in your loom and your moldy crumbs. Like, okay, you're packing a sword and putting your life in danger for men. And there is a sense in which you are still selling your body. Because you have to wield that sword
but
with
if
your
you
body.
Want to do it, if you don't want to bend over a loom, and you don't want to raise kids,
but again,
and you want to war,
that's not the presentation there.
What do you mean?
It's not my sisters are bending over the loom because they want to, or whatever. It's obviously the Hillary Clinton, like, oh, I'm supposed to sit there and bake cookies with an apron, blah, blah, blah. And of course, all the women that were in the kitchen were like, "What the fuck? Well, hey, what's going on here? Friendly fire." I just think that like men are very good at actually using women against each other, using the ideologies and stuff against each other. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting.
I was talking to Dorian. He's our 15-year-old, and I was telling him like, it took me a while to realize that I actually do love cooking, because I hated the stereotype. A woman in the kitchen, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So because of that, I rejected the idea. It took me a while to realize I actually kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, who benefits?
I'd like to bake a pie.
Who benefits? Who benefits from that mentality? Male capitalists, male white capitalists benefit from that mentality. Now I gotta
get women out
now
there.
I got a whole
pay 'em
bunch.
less.
I got a whole bunch of women in the workforce now.
Yeah, true.
Who you know can base their value on you know, climbing the corporate ladder and making me millions of dollars. So that benefits me as a man.
And I'm gonna objectify them in the process.
Correct. That entire mentality is very beneficial to me as a filthy capitalist male.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it is what it is.
Annoying.
It's not annoying to me. I just think if people would like listen to themselves and listen to what their inclinations
They
are,
can figure these things out.
they'd be able to figure these things
Yeah.
out really quickly. You know. But shout out to Shorty, she's doing jihad, bro. I don't want to cross this girl in the dark.
Follow the phantom drums, young lady. Follow them.
Go for it. Go for it. Probably some
Although-
nasty ass king sitting in his horrible tent. You know what I'm saying? With like 5 broads around him, and he doesn't have to lift a finger because he just deployed this girl to go out and kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she gets to. You know.
I still can't imagine my life without my kids. Sometimes they drive me right up a wall. Straight up
It's
the wall.
impossible. It's impossible. It's possible. I like the song though. Shorty can sing. Holy moly.
Oh yeah, she can.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
I was actually really taken by her voice.
Yeah, right away when it started, I was like, whoa, it was not the voice I expected to start singing it, and then
It's the
Very
best
good.
best marriage is female vocals in metal. It's the best thing in the world.
true.
Aside from our marriage. Alright, what do you give the see that should give me some points, right? Should
Well, it depends.
Should give me something.
Did you say it for points?
I mean, what do you give the song?
But you're not gonna answer that?
I'm gonna give it a solid 9.4. Shorty was a gangster. It got a 0.1 just on the video alone because of the gangsterism.
Oh my gosh.
She saw that little kid with his head in the tree. She's like, "Alright, motherfucker."
Yep.
She saw it.
Hey.
She's like, "Alright, motherfucker. Somebody's gonna die for this."
9.6. But I bump it to a 9.7 because I like the attitude.
Yeah, good. And as she goes back to serving out dinner,
We gotta hurry because I gotta check the potatoes.
then out,
Sorry out.
gone.